Welcome to this explainer. We often think of back-end technical configurations as, well, just IT stuff, right? Rows in a database or a bunch of toggles in a system. But today, we're completely flipping that script. We're going to explore how standardizing your back-end architecture translates directly into frontline business growth, and we'll be specifically unpacking the scalable growth strategy behind Rasta Infotech's SAP structure.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to ask yourself, is your current ERP setup basically just a massive digital filing cabinet where you store numbers? Or is it an actual living engine designed for scalable growth? Because honestly, if it's just a filing cabinet, you're leaving a massive amount of potential on the table. The way a system is built dictates exactly how far a business can expand.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the anatomy of SAP sales, why these sales organizations matter, the CCC configuration framework, a real-world setup example with Rasta Infotech, and finally, how this actively fuels their growth.
All right, Section 1, Anatomy of SAP Sales. Let's get right into the fundamental building blocks. I like to think of this whole process like designing a massive corporate headquarters, and it all begins right here with the sales organization. In the SAP Sales and Distribution module, which we usually just call SAP SD, this is the absolute highest level. Going back to that building analogy, this is the foundation. It's the legal deed to the property. It represents a legal entity that is fundamentally responsible for sales, setting your pricing, and managing those customer contracts. Literally everything anchors back to this bottom line necessity of legal and financial accountability. Without it, the whole building collapses. Moving down a level, we have the sales office. So if the sales organization is the overarching corporate HQ, think of the sales offices as the specialized regional wings of that building. This is where the daily market operations actually happen. These hubs are strategically placed to manage regional nuances and provide direct, localized support to the sales teams operating in those specific territories. Stepping down just one more level, we hit the sales group. Now, these are the essential people on the ground. These groups represent the frontline teams interacting directly with your customers every single day. They're the ones taking the strategic directives from the sales office and turning them into direct customer engagement and ultimately closed deals. But how do those deals actually flow? Well, that happens through a sales area. A sales area is just a combination of your sales organization plus your distribution channel plus your division. It sounds super simple on the surface, but configurations exactly like this govern billions of dollars in global trade every single day. The sales area acts as the operational doors leading out of your corporate building and right into the open market. Moving on to Section 2, why sales organizations matter. Let's connect this to some real business outcomes. Now, if you're a business leader or an enterprise architect watching this, you might be asking yourself why these specific labels even matter. So, the crucial point is this. These technical elements are directly tied to massive business outcomes. First up, legal and financial integration. Every single sales org is tied directly to a company code, and that ensures you remain compliant and have rock-solid financial reporting. Second, it controls the entire customer lifecycle, mapping out your pricing, discounts, and contracts. Third, it enables clear market segmentation, so you can easily separate, say, wholesale channels from retail channels. And finally, it's the absolute bedrock of digital transformation. For a rapidly growing company like Rasta Infotech, having this robust structure is what makes automation, analytics, and sheer scalability actually possible. Which brings us to Section 3, the CCC configuration framework. Let's look at the actual execution methodology behind all of this. This framework right here, this is really the aha moment of our explainer. I want you to think of the CCC framework as your ultimate architectural blueprint for scalable configuration. It stands for clarity, context, and conversion. If you follow these 3 steps, you're literally transforming a blank system into a strategic powerhouse. Let's break each of these down. Step 1 is clarity. Now, this happens right in the system settings when you define the sales organization within the enterprise structure. But the real magic happens with that second point, assigning it to the company code. By explicitly linking the sales org to the company code, you establish the ultimate foundational link for financial integration. Your sales data and your financial data are now perfectly, clearly aligned. Step 2 is context. This is where a business structurally contextualizes its market reach. You create distribution channels to define exactly how you sell. Maybe that's online, retail, or wholesale. Then you define divisions for product specialization, which tells the system exactly what you sell. And finally, you combine them all to build those sales areas we talked about earlier. You're basically giving the system the exact context of your very unique business model.
Let's move to that third step and see how this all builds into conversion. This is where the lights turn on and the engine really starts running. You assign your sales org and distribution channel to your physical plants, instantly activating your logistics. You set up credit control areas, which actively turns on financial risk management. And you enable your reporting structures using sales units, which unlocks incredibly flexible, powerful analytics. You've officially converted structural theory into a living, breathing business operation.
All right, section 4, the Rasta Infotech setup example. Time for some highly anticipated real-world application. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can map everything we just learned directly onto Rasta Infotech to see their specific growth strategy in action. Notice how clearly they mapped their business strategy to their SAP configuration. By setting up online and wholesale distribution channels, they were able to rapidly segment their market to capture entirely new demographics. They specialized their offerings into SAP consulting and digital solutions. And they didn't just build a monolith, right? They set up specific regional hubs in Bengaluru and Mumbai. Every single configuration choice you see here was purposely engineered to drive a specific, measurable business impact for their expansion. Finally, section 5, fueling Rasta Infotech growth. Let's look at the high-level strategic outcomes of this execution. So, what happens when this entire digital building is finished? Well, this right here is exactly what you should take away from Rasta Infotech's digital transformation journey. By building this architecture, they achieved optimized order fulfillment because of their crystal-clear hierarchy. They unlocked enhanced analytics by utilizing those flexible sales units. They drove incredible customer retention because the system now handles highly personalized pricing and contracts completely seamlessly. And most importantly, scalability. They are perfectly positioned for future expansion into entirely new regions or services, and they can do it without having to rebuild their foundation. And this brilliantly illustrates the core message of our explainer today. A sales organization and SAP is not just a technical setup, it's a strategic enabler. Implementing the CCC framework ensures total clarity in your processes, perfect contextual alignment with your broader business goals, and seamless conversion into measurable, explosive growth. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to carry with you. If your back-end technical architecture quite literally defines the limits of your business expansion, how scalable is your foundation today? Are you built to stay exactly where you are, or are you configured to grow? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep building, and I'll catch you next time.